Hi there, and thank you very much for watching this video. It's been about a month since I made my last video, which was about the E, A flat C, A flat C E, the CEAbabce guitar tuning, which I thought was the greatest and most important tuning in recent times because of its sheer easiness to play. Well, since then I've been just experimenting about with different tunings, and I've discovered an even better tuning than that I find more enjoyable to play. And this tuning is the same tuning as the CEAbabce, which is the E, A flat C, A flat C E tuning in the top 3 strings, but in the bottom 3 strings I've just lowered them by a major third. So we're keeping that major third distance between the bottom 3 strings and the top 3 strings. And this time, instead of having a minor sixth in the middle, what we have is that we have 1 octave between the 4th string and the 3rd string. And so as regards the tuning, it's now the C at the very bottom, which is the major third below the E in the normal standard tuning. And then for the 5th string we have the E, which is a major third above the C. And then for the 4th string we have the A flat, which is a major third above the E. And then for the 3rd string we have the A flat 1 octave above. And then for the 2nd string we have the C, which is 1 major third above. And then for the top string we have the E, which is a major third above. And because we are keeping the major third distance between the strings in the top 3 and the bottom 3, then what that means is that when we wish to play any major or minor chord of any of the 12 notes in the chromatic scale, then we just simply need to use the fret widths of just 2 frets. So for example, this is the tonic chord of C major. As regards all these strings, I'm now playing all the 6 strings, but as regards the width of the fingering, I do not use more than 2 fret widths for the chord, and that can be repeated for every single note in the chromatic scale. So this is C major, and this is B major, and this is B flat major, so that was the tonic chord. And if we wish to play all 6 strings at the same time, then we can do so in the tonic chord with the major third at the top. So this is the chord of A flat major. So those are all 6 strings playing at the same time. And one can do that for the key, which is 1 semitone either way, up or down. So this is the key of G major, and then F sharp major, and then F major. And going the opposite direction, we have the key of A major, and then B flat major, and then B major, and then C major. And in my previous video, I demonstrated that I can play any inversion of any major or minor chord from the 12 notes of the chromatic scale using the chord widths of just 2 frets, and the same applies to this guitar tuning as well. So for example, if I wish to play the chord of C minor, it's this. minor, it's this. And for B flat minor, it's this. And for A minor, it's this. And so forth. And I could do that in any inversion. So for example, this is the chord of F minor. And here is the chord of E minor. And the chord of E flat minor. So those are the major and minor chords in all their inversions, which only require the fret widths of 2 frets to play them. And if I wish to play a dominant 7th, then I just need the fret widths of 3 frets. So that is a dominant 7th of E flat major. And that is the same for D major. And that is the same for C sharp major. And if I wish to play diminished thirds, then they are quite simple as well. So this requires the span of 4 frets. And so forth. And what I find so wonderful about this tuning is that it has such a deep bass, and I can span the tonic plus 2 octaves above and then the major third, like this. Which means that I can have a very deep bass together with a melody at the top. So there we had the counterpoint happening in the bass, together with the melody at the top in the alto. So what we'll do for the rest of this video is that we'll just learn a short melody with chords. And I'll just demonstrate it first. After that, I'll go through the notation in detail as regards how to play the notes with the correct fingering. So it's just a very short musical phrase of just a few bars. So to play that, all that requires just 12 chord changes. And so we'll begin with the first one, which is C5, M5, the Greek letter alpha, followed by the letter O, and then Z2, 4, 3, 3, the Greek letter beta, followed by the letter O. And if you've been watching the previous videos, then it does follow the same system that we have discussed before. So as regards to C5, that is the very top note in the top string, which is the C5, which is this note here. And then the next letter, which is the capital M, that means that the hand needs to assume the finger shape of M, which means it needs to play the top 5 adjacent strings, which are these strings here. And in order to do that, then we need to follow the fingering in the following letters and numbers. So the next number we have after the capital M is the number 5, which means that we play the note the C5 with the 5th finger, like this. And then after that we have the Greek letter alpha. So what that means is that that note, that is the main melodic note, so that needs to be played louder than the others. And then after the Greek letter alpha we have the letter O, which means that that needs to last the time duration of a semibreve, which would translate to a whole note in American terminology. And then after that we have the letter Z, followed by the number 2. And what that means is that in the second string we need to play 1 fret towards the nut, and the 2 means that that needs to be played with the 2nd finger, like that. And then after that we have the number 4, which means that on the 3rd string it needs to be played with the 4th finger on the same fret as the top string. And then after that we have 3 again, which means that that 4th string needs to be played with the 3rd finger. And then after that we have the number 3 again, which means that the 5th string needs to be played with the 3rd finger as well. So the 4th and 5th string are both held down by the 3rd finger. And then after the 2nd, 3rd we have the Greek letter beta, which means that that is the 2nd melodic note, so that needs to be played louder as well, but not as loud as the top string, which is the alpha note. And then after that we have the letter O, which means that that needs to be played with a duration of a semibreve or a whole note. And then after that we have 3 groups of numbers and letters in curly brackets. So the first group in curly brackets, it's P, and then / and U, 1, 2, 3. So the P means that that group in the curly brackets needs to last the time duration of a minim, which is 1/2 note. And then we have a / followed by a U. And the U represents the time duration of a semiquaver. And the 1, 2, 3 represents the strings 1, 2, and 3. So we need to repeat the pattern 1, 2, and 3 in semibreves, like this. And we need to carry on doing that for the duration of 1 minim, which is 1/2 note, like this. And that's all we play in that first group in the curly brackets. And then after that we have the second group with the numbers and letters L / U, 5, 2, 3, 1. So that means that we need to play the strings number 5, 2, 3, and 1 in semibreves, and that needs to go on for a time duration of a crotchet, which is a quarter note. So that sounds like this. And then in the last group we have L / U, 2, 3, 1, 2. And similarly, the strings number 2, 3, and 1 need to be played in that order as semibreves, and that needs to go on for the time duration of a crotchet, like this. So putting that first line together, it sounds like this. So moving on now to the second chord, it's B4, W3, alpha O, 2A, 5A, 4, beta, P.L. And the B4 represents the note in the top string, which is 1 semitone down from C5, so it's this note here. And the small w represents the finger shape of W, which means that we need to put the fingers over the top 4 adjacent strings, which are these strings here. And then the 3 means that we need to play the top string with the 3rd finger, like that. And then after that we have the alpha, which means that that is the melodic note. So we have to play that louder than the other notes. And the O represents the semi-breve or the whole note, and that means that that note needs to resound for the time duration of one semi-breve. And then after that we have the number 2, which means that the second string needs to be played with the second finger, like that. And then after that we have A5, and what that means is that on the third string we need to play one fret further towards the bridge with the fifth finger, like that. And then after that we have A4, which means that for the fourth string we need to play one fret towards the bridge from the top string with the fourth finger, like that. And the beta represents that is the secondary melodic note, and the P.L means that needs to be played as a dotted minim followed by a crotchet, so that fourth string needs to sound like this. So that is one dotted minim followed by a crotchet. So putting that first part together, which is the big B, 4, small w, 3, alpha, O, 2A, 5, A4, beta, P.L, that sounds like this. And I'll just repeat that. So that, incidentally, is in the key of E minor. And then after that we have the group of numbers and letters in curly brackets. And they are O/U, 1 2 3 1, 2 3 1 4, 4 2 3 1, 1 2 3 1, A4. And what that means is that that entire group needs to last the duration of a semi-breve or a whole note, and each number represents a U, which is a semi-breve. And the 1 2 3 1 means that it needs to be played first of all on the first string, then the second, then the third, and the first again, and so forth. So it sounds like this. And when we get to the very last note, which is the number 1, big A4, that means that on the top string that needs to play the fret A4. So that is one whole tone down from the top fret. So as regards the very last group, 1 2 3 1 A4, that sounds like this. So putting the second chord together with this accompaniment in the curly brackets, it sounds like this. So that is the second chord. On to the third chord. We have big A, 4, little w, 5, alpha, O, 4, 2, 4, Z2, Z2, beta, P.L. So once again, the very top note on the top string, it's the A4, and then the W represents the fingering position of W, which means that the top 4 adjacent strings are played, and then the 5 means the top note needs to be played with the 5th finger, and then the alpha O means that that top note, it's the main melodic note, and it needs to last for a semi-breve, and then 4 after that represents that the second string needs to be played with the 4th finger on the same fret, and Z2 means that the 3rd string needs to be played one fret towards the nut with the 2nd finger, and Z2 again after that means that the 4th string needs to be played with the 2nd finger on the fret, one fret towards the nut from the top string, and the beta, P.L, means that that needs to be played as a dotted minim followed by a crotchet. So that third chord sounds like this. And I'll just repeat that. And then we have the accompaniment in the curly brackets, which is O/U 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 4 4 2 3 1 1 2 3 1 C5. So that means that those 4 notes need to last the duration of a semi-breve or whole note, and they need to be played as semi-breves. They need to be played as semiquavers, like this. And when we get to the very last note, that is one big C5, which means that that needs to be played on the C5 fret, so which is that one there. So as regards those 16 notes, they sound like this. So we'll just put together that entire third chord, and it sounds like this. And then moving on to the fourth chord, we have big 5, big M, Z2, alpha, O, caret 4, caret 3, caret 3. So the big C5 means that the top string needs to play the C5 notes. And then after that we have the big M, which means that the fingers need to adopt the fingering shape where all top 5 strings are played. And it needs to do that by playing the C5 with the 5th finger. And then after that we have Z2, which means that as regards the 2nd string, it needs to be played 1 fret towards the nut with the 2nd finger. And this time it's the 2nd string that has the melodic notes, and that needs to last 1 semibreve. And then on the 3rd string we have caret 4, and that caret means that we do not play that note. We just put the finger there, but we do not pluck it. And then after that we have caret 3, which means once again we put the finger on the 4th string using the 3rd finger, but we don't pluck it. And then on the 5th string we do the same, and we don't pluck that either. So as regards C5, M5, Z2, alpha, O, caret 4, caret 3, caret 3, it sounds like this. So we just have the top 2 strings sounding. And then after that we have the notes in curly brackets, which are P/U 4 1 2 3 5 ampersand 1 2 3 1 D5. And what that means is that the accompaniment needs to go on for the duration of a minimum, and the U represents that each note needs to be a semi-quaver, and it needs to be played first of all on the 4th string, then the 1st, then the 2nd, then the 3rd, and then the 5th and the 1st need to sound together, followed by the 2nd and then the 3rd, and then for the very last note it's the top string, but that needs to play the D5 fret, which is 1 whole tone above, which is this note here. So those notes in curly brackets sounds like this. So as regards that 4th chord, it sounds like this. And now moving on to the 5th chord, it's big D, 5, W, 3 alpha, L, underscore, caret, A5, caret, A4, caret, A2. And what that means is that the top note of the next chord, on the top string, it's D5, which is this note here. And the finger shape needs to be that of W, which means that the top 4 adjacent strings need to be played. And then after that we have the number 3, which means that the top note needs to be played with the 3rd finger. And the alpha means that that needs to be played louder than the others, because that is the melodic note. And then the L underscore after that indicates that that is to be played as a crotchet, which is a quarter note, and the underscore indicates that that needs to be held down as a tight note onto the next chord. And then after that we have the caret, which means that for the next note, string needs to be held down but not played, therefore not plucked. So the next note is A5, which means that we move one fret on the next string, the second string, further towards the bridge, and that needs to be played with the fifth finger like that. And the next one after that, the third string, same again, has a caret before it, which means that it needs to be held down but not plucked, and that once again is one fret towards the bridge as indicated by the A, and that is to be held down by the fourth finger. And then after that, once again, it's a caret before the A2, which means that it needs to be held down but not plucked, and the A2 indicates that it needs to be one fret towards the bridge from the top fret, and that needs to be played with the second finger like that. So as regards big D, 5, small w, 3 alpha L underscore, caret A5, caret A4, caret A2, it sounds like this. It's just the one note at the top, but all the others need to be held down but not plucked, because they'll be played in the accompaniment. And then after that, in the curly brackets, we have L/U 4231. And what that means is that the accompaniment needs to last the duration of a crotchet or a quarter note, and the U represents that each note needs to be of the length of one semiquaver, and it needs to be played as 4-2-3-1, which means that the fourth string needs to sound first, followed by the second, followed by the third, followed by the first. So as regards the fifth chord, it sounds like this. So that's the fifth chord completed. And now onto the sixth chord. It's big D5, small m hyphen, small I 3, alpha underscore L, caret A5, caret A4, caret A2. So that is exactly the same as the previous chord in terms of the fingering, except for the shape of the finger, which is small m hyphen 1 instead of W. And small m hyphen 1 means that the top three strings are played together with the sixth string instead of four adjacent strings at the top. So it's the bottom and then the top three instead of previously the top four. And as indicated, the very last held note in that chord is the caret A2, which means that the sixth string needs to be held down one fret towards the bridge from the starting fret at the top, and that needs to be played with the second finger like that. And then after that we have in curly brackets L/U 6231 E5. And what that means is that the entire duration of that accompaniment needs to last the length of an L, which is a crotchet, which is a quarter note. And the U indicates that each note needs to be a semiquaver, and those notes need to be played first of all on the sixth string, and the second, and the third, and then the first. And at the very end it says one big E5, and what that means is that as regards the very last note on the top string, the first string, it needs to be played on the E5 fret, which is one semitone above the very top note. That. So as regards the accompaniment, it sounds like this. So as regards the sixth chord, it sounds like this. And then moving on to the seventh chord, we have big E5, small W5, alpha L, caret 4, caret 2, 2, caret Z2. And what that means is that the top note needs to be the E5 fret, and the finger shape needs to be W, which is the top four strings, like that. And then after that we have 5 alpha L, and that means that the top note needs to be played with the fifth finger, and the alpha L means that it needs to be played as a melodic note, and the L means that that note needs to last the duration of a crotchet or a quarter note. And then after that we have caret 4, which means that the next note on the second string needs to be held down on the same fret with the fourth finger like that, but not plucked. And after that we have caret Z2, which means that the third note on the third string needs to be played one fret towards the nut, and that needs to be played with the second finger like that. And then after that we have the same again, caret Z2, which means that the note on the fourth string needs to be played one fret towards the nut from the starting fret, and that needs to be played with the same finger. So we've got the index finger holding down both strings 3 and 4 like that. So as regards that chord, it sounds like this. We just play the top note, but we hold down the notes in the 3 strings below the top string. And then we have the accompaniment in curly brackets, which is L/U 4231. And what that means is that the accompaniment needs to last the duration of a crotchet, and each note needs to be played as a semiquaver, and it needs to be played as the fourth string followed by the second, followed by the third, followed by the first. So it sounds like this. So the entire 7th chord sounds like this. And moving on to the 8th chord, it's big E5, and then we have small W5 alpha, followed by open round brackets, small u underscore, small u big F5 underscore, small u big E3, space, small u big D5, close round brackets. And what the notes in the round bracket means is that on the top string, which is to be played with the 5th finger, we have the melodic element consisting of small u underscore, small u big F5 underscore, small u big E3, space, small u big D5. And the u, as you might have gathered from the previous examples, represents a semiquaver. So we've got the 4 semiquavers inside those round brackets. And the first semiquaver is just a u, which means that the first semiquaver is the same note as the starting note, which is E5. And the second semiquaver, which is u big F5, it's F5, which is 1 semitone 1 fret above. And the third semiquaver, it's E5, so we're back to our previous note. And the fourth semiquaver is D5, so we're down 1 whole tone. So it sounds like this. So just bear in mind that we've got the underscores in between the first 3 notes, so that means that they are slurred. So it sounds like this. So that is the top note. And then after that we have caret 4, which means that the next string, the second string, needs to be held down with the 4th finger. But the caret means that it's not to be played. And then after that we have caret Z2, which means that the 3rd string needs to be held down with the 2nd finger. And then after that we have Z2 beta L, and that means that as regards the 4th string, it needs to be held down 1 fret towards the nut with the same finger, the index finger, and the beta indicates that that is the secondary melodic note, and that needs to last the length of a crotchet, which is indicated by the L, which represents a crotchet or a quarter note. Like that. So as regards the entire 8th chord, it sounds like this. And now moving on to the 9th chord, it's big D, 5, small w, 3, alpha, L, caret, small a5, caret a3, caret a2. And what that means is that the top note on the top string is a D5, and then the small w indicates that the finger needs to adopt the shape of the W, which is the top 4 strings, and then 3 indicates that the top note needs to be played with the 3rd finger. And then after that we have alpha L, which means that that is the melodic note, and that needs to last the duration of a crotchet. And on the 2nd string we have caret A5, which means that that needs to be held down but not plucked. And A5 indicates that it's one fret towards the bridge, and that needs to be held down by the fifth finger, like that. And then on the third string we have caret A4, which means that once again it's one fret towards the bridge to be held down by the fourth finger. And then after that, caret A2, we have the fourth string to be played one fret towards the bridge to be held down with the second finger. And then after that we have the curly brackets, which is the accompaniment, which lasts L, which is one crotchet, and then the elements in that are notes consisting of U, which is the semiquaver, and it needs to be played as 4-2-3-1, which is string 4, string 2, string 3, string 1. So the ninth chord sounds like this. And then moving on to the 10th chord, it's big D5, small m hyphen small I, 3 alpha L, caret A5, caret A4, caret A2. And that chord is exactly the same as the previous chord, except that instead of taking on the finger shape of W, which is the top 4 adjacent strings, it's small m hyphen small I, which is that we play the top 3 adjacent strings with the bottom string, like that. But we just play the top string because all the others are held down to be played in the accompaniment, which is, in curly brackets, L / U 6 2 3 1 C5, which means that we play the 6th string first, and then 2nd, and then 3rd, and then for the 1st string we play C5, which is one tone down, like this. So the entire 10th chord sounds like this. And now moving on to the 11th chord, is big C5, big M5, alpha, small o, caret Z2, caret 4, caret 3, caret 3. And that means that the top note is C5, and the finger shape is big M. And what that means is that we need to play the top 5 adjacent strings. And then after that we have the number 5, and that means that the top note needs to be played with the 5th finger. And alpha O means that that top note is the melodic note, and that needs to last one semi-breve or one whole note. And then after that we have, on the 2nd string, caret Z2, which means that it needs to be held down one fret towards the nut with the index finger, the 2nd finger. And then on the 3rd string is caret 4, which means that it's to be held down on the same fret as the starting note, but with the 4th finger. And then for the 4th string is caret 3. Similarly, it's to be held down on the same fret as the starting note. And then for the 5th string is caret 3 again, so both the 4th and 5th strings are held down by the same finger, and it sounds like this. Because we do not pluck in the first instance the bottom 4 notes, because they are preceded by the caret. And then after that, in the curly brackets, we have O / U 5 2 3 1 2 3 1 5 5 2 3 1 2 3 1 5. So that means that the accompaniment consists of those 16 semiquavers, and they are to be played 5 2 3 1 on the 5th string, 2nd, 3rd, 1st, 2 3 1 5, 2nd, 3 1 5, 5 2 3 1 5 2 3 1 2 3 1 5. So the entire 11th chord sounds like this. So moving on to the last chord, it's big C5, big M5, alpha, big S, small o, 5, Z2, 4, 3, 3. And that basically is the same finger position as the previous chord, and the same notes, and the same fingering, except that this time without the caret we play all 5 strings. So the top note is the C5, and then we take the finger shape of big M, and then we hold down the top note with the fifth finger, and then the alpha indicates that that top note is the melodic note, and then the big S indicates that that needs to be played arpeggiated, as if it were written as a curly line in music notation. So the big S represents the curly line in an arpeggiated chord. And then after that we have the small O, which means that the top note needs to last the duration of a semi-breve. And after the O we have Z2, 4, 3, 3, which basically are the same bottom four notes as the previous chord, but this time we pluck them. So the 12th chord sounds like this. So playing the entire musical phrase from the beginning, this is what it sounds like. So first of all we play the first chord. And here is the second chord. And here is the third chord. And here's the fourth chord. And here's the fifth chord. And here's the sixth chord. And here's the seventh chord. And here's the eighth chord. And here's the ninth chord. And here's the 10th chord. And here is the 11th chord. And here's the 12th chord. And I'll just play that entire phrase again without any comments. Are there any drawbacks with this tuning? Well, if there is a slight difficulty, it is the gulf of the one octave between the fourth and the third strings. And this gulf could make contrapuntal or scalar passages, let's say in Baroque music, in the middle range, slightly difficult. But I find that if one were to practice one's scales in this middle range, then this gulf is easily overcome. And I'll just demonstrate what I mean by that. So let's say if we were to play the major scale of A flat major, starting with the bottom A flat, then it's like this. And when we get to one octave above, and we need to play the next note after that, then we have the gulf of the one octave. So if we wish to play the next note, we need to go all the way down on the next string, up, close to the nut, and then continue. So let's repeat that. And for the next note, we need to go close to the nut, and if we were to play that one semitone upwards in the key of A major, then we just do the same. And what about the opposite way, in the other direction? So let's say if we were to play that in the key of G major, it would be and what about F sharp major? It would be so for that last scale of F sharp major, when we changed from the fourth to the third string, we had to play the open string in the third string. So if we were to transpose one semitone downwards even further to the key of F major, what would happen then? So let's find out. So we start off with the bottom octave. And if we play the third string after that, then that is a minor third. So how do we get from the tonic note to that note in the scale, whilst at the same time playing the tonic note in the bottom? So the actual stretch between the bottom note and the next note is a stretch of 7 frets, which is far too wide. So we can't play the bottom F, but we can play the tonic F, which is below the second note in the scale, like that. And then once we've done that, we can play the third. And after that, we can go back close towards the nut, and then play the major third, and then the fourth, and then continue as before. So with practice, playing those scales, that gulf between the fourth and the third string, which is 1 octave, can be easily overcome. And so that is all for now. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please don't forget to subscribe and like, and I can be found at Patreon, Easy Chromatic Guitar. I really look forward to seeing you next time, where hopefully I'll be showing more features and exercises on this wonderful, astounding tuning, which is the C, E, A flat, C, E, chromatic tuning, which allows us to play in all the 12 major and minor keys using the same relative fingering. Until next time, I wish you all happy guitar playing.